What up, folks? This is Jason Rogash. It's Monday after the Super Bowl. Now, of course, I love making post-Super Bowl videos. I've made a few in my past. Most people don't expect me, because of what I talk about, to be a big sports fan. And I'm not really a big sports fan anymore. Growing up, I played baseball, basketball, football. I was quite the athlete, I thought. So I love sports, and it kind of just... Football was my main sport. I'm a rather large individual, so football was always something that I was always good at, and I always identified with, and I always enjoyed doing. I played multiple positions in flag football leagues, tackle football leagues, all kinds, just as an adult. I'm 40 now. I don't play anymore because my knees are pretty bad, and I'm more of a runner now and a biker, so I just try to stay cardiovascular in shape. But I don't know why I'm telling you that. The point is, folks, that this Super Bowl was absolutely, this Atlanta Falcons versus the New England Patriots, was a wonderfully exciting football game if you hate yourself. And most New England Patriot fans do, so they must have had a great time. I'm, of course, kidding. I have many, many, many friends who are Patriots fans. As a matter of fact, almost everybody I know is a Patriots fan now. Funny how that works when they're the winningest team. But I know people from Boston, and I know people from blah, blah, blah. So... and even without the homunculi, Rob Gronkowski, even without Caveman BC, they still won, which congratulations to the Patriots. I mean, I don't care who wins a sporting event anymore at 40 years old. My favorite team is the Chicago Bears. I really don't give a shit. The Mets were in the World Series a few years ago. They were my favorite baseball team, but I'm not like a little kid. If the Mets had been in the World Series when I was a little kid, it would have been a fucking event around my house. But when they were in the World Series a few years ago, I just didn't give a shit. I'm an adult. I don't care. I don't have kids, so it's not as exciting. Plus, it's literally a bunch of adults running around playing a child's game, making millions of dollars. So, as a bread and circus to distract the American people from the pressing issues that they should be focused on in order to change their own future and their children's future. But let's talk about the Super Bowl for a moment, shall we? Let's leave the politics. Well, we'll mix both in. First of all, it was won by the New England Patriots. Professional Zionist, Robert Kraft. Everybody loves Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, because he wears Nike Airs. He wears Nikes, and he gives Nikes away. Nikes are made by slave labor in China and other places around the world. They have an extreme markup, so the company stays profitable. Nike spends some ridiculous amount of money on their advertising budget and their image budget, so you believe that they're somehow for the athlete, and they're going to make you a stronger athlete, and then you can compare yourself with people, with the great athletes like Michael Jordan or Bo Jackson or whoever the hell else endorses their products now, and you can pretend like you put on a pair of Jordans, you're Michael Jordan. And so they keep these, and they use the press tremendously well in public relations to keep these slave-made pieces of shit shoes that they sell you artificially high, and just continuing the circle of oppression that Nike has been so good at for the last 30 years. The more popular Nike gets, the more profitable Nike gets, the more suppressive they get with their factories. Did you ever hear Phil Knight talk about this with Michael Moore? Michael Moore interviews Phil Knight, who was the CEO of Nike. I don't know if he is anymore. And he said, Americans just don't want to make shoes. That was his justification. Not, we can make shoes. We can make a shoe for $1 over there, or we can make it for $50 here, $40 here. What do you think we're going to do? He didn't say that. He wasn't honest. He said Americans don't want to make shoes. They're liars. They know better. They're all scum. They all should be shot in the face. But anyway, and then the bill for the bullet should be mailed to their family, and there should be like an extreme markup on that bullet, so it should be billions of dollars for the rest of their lives, everything they own. So, but the football the game was the Atlanta Falcons did everything they could not to win this game. They were up at one point 28-3. They had the game. It was theirs. They let the New England Patriots win the game because of terrible play calling from their offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan. Now, of course, Kyle Shanahan is the son of Mike Shanahan, who won 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos, John Elway's Denver Broncos. And Mike Shanahan's considered a pretty good offensive coordinator. That's still under. I mean, yeah, he's good at coaching a running game, and he seems to be really, really good coach when he has a good quarterback. But when his quarterback isn't playing so well, he's not so good, and that's pretty much the story for every single NFL franchise that's ever existed. If your quarterback's not playing well, your team's probably not playing well. So, unless you have a great defense or a great running game. So, what you watched was the Atlanta Falcons and their high-powered offense, featuring Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, do everything they could in the fourth quarter to give the game to the New England Patriots. If Bill Belichick was coaching the Atlanta Falcons with the exact same rosters on that exact, like they just switched sidelines and put him as the offensive coordinator, because the head coach, Dan Quinn, he doesn't really coach the offense at all. He lets it all to Kyle Shanahan. Whereas if Bill Belichick had been over there, Bill Belichick would have said, run the football. Hand the ball off to one of our running backs. Doesn't matter what running back. Help hand it to a wide receiver. Don't throw it. Don't get back in the pocket and let Bill Belichick's ability to scheme a blitz blow you up, and that's exactly what happened with Matt Ryan. He fumbles the ball in his own in his own territory. New England gets the ball, scores quick. Then they get the ball back. They had plenty of time because of that play. Then on the next drive, they get it all the way down the field. They're going to kick a field goal, and they lose 23 yards. They lose on a holding penalty from, say it with me, on a pass play. And they call 2 consecutive pass plays instead of handing the ball off. And this is what the problem is with Kyle Shanahan. He tried to put his mark on the fucking game. And if I'm John Lynch, who's now the new general manager in San Francisco, I might be rethinking whether I'm going to hire him as my head coach. Because Shanahan made one of the most arrogant, unneeded, unwanted, stupefying, historically changing the fate of an entire franchise with his arrogant, supercilious, I know that's probably the wrong word, but it feels right, asshole calls. I'm not a fan of the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care if they win or lose. But if I'm Matt Ryan today, number one, Matt Ryan, that's when your veteran quarterback says, no, audible out of that, we're running the football twice. You run the football, you kick that field goal, New England's got to score twice, you make it much more difficult for them. They may have scored twice, but that you make it much more difficult for them than having to go down and get score a 2-point conversion, and then they got to come back and score with no time left. They would have lost. New England would have had a great comeback, but they would have lost. Just simple game strategy and management. When you play any sport, hell, if you play video games, you play Madden. Let's leave it there. Let's not even go into real world. If you've ever played fucking Madden or you run the clock out. That's what you do when you get a lead, because the other team is motivated to get you. Your team is not motivated. Your team is playing tepid. Your team is playing cautiously. Your team is playing not to lose. The other team's got nothing to lose. They can't get any worse, so they start taking more chances. You start doing more, and anything can happen, and often does. You don't tempt fate by throwing the football at the end because you are trying to put your mark on the game. That throw to Julio Jones and that catch that Julio Jones had in the fourth quarter, I think it was Julio Jones' last catch, was one of the great catches ever. That ball should not have been thrown. It was lucky it wasn't intercepted, but it was a completion, and that put them in field goal range. All they had to do is run the ball twice, kick the field goal, and they'd have been good. And they have a great punter. So, if it would have been a field position game, they could have done that even if they needed to. But they just lost the game at the end, and I blame Kyle Shanahan. And for somebody who has as much experience as Kyle Shanahan has, that was inexcusable. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons will be back to the Super Bowl. I think they're a cute little team that's got a lot of speed, but really, you saw what happened. They cracked under pressure heavily, and their quarterback let a guaranteed Super Bowl win, which might be the difference for some quarterbacks for the Hall of Fame or not. You can put up great numbers, unless your numbers are fucking unbelievable. You better have a couple of Super Bowls or a Super Bowl. Kurt Warner just got elected into the Hall of Fame. You can look at his numbers. He came out of nowhere. The Kurt Warner story, it's great for St. Louis and then for Arizona, but he went to 3 Super Bowls, lost 2 of them, won, and now is in the Hall of Fame. Matt Ryan may not make the Hall of Fame. Guys like that are borderline because you have to win Super Bowls. And I think this was to me was so, and it's great that it happened to the New England Patriots. So we get to even more dick ride on Tom Brady. Now we get to more call Tom Brady the great, when he's just you know what Tom Brady is? He's the guy. He's a general. He's a colonel. He's somebody that's on the battlefield that leads his men into war. He's consistent. He never gets killed. He makes it to age 50 because he just takes orders so well and he prepares so well. You can't take anything against Tom Brady. He's probably the greatest quarterback ever to play the game. I think it goes him and then Joe Montana. Choose your Terry Bradshaws and your others who have 4 rings, 3 rings, 2 rings, Troy Aikmans, people like that. And I think, no question, Tom Brady before this game was probably the greatest quarterback of all time. And it just showed it. You can't give a guy like that any kind of time because he's so fucking good at what he does that he'll destroy you. And that's what happened. There was nothing magical what Tom Brady did. That was just Tom Brady being Tom Brady. That was precision passing. That was extraordinary accuracy. And that was understanding that's I've been there before and I'm going to do it again. And you could see Matt Ryan had never been there before. The big game was too big. This was Tom Brady's 7th Super Bowl. How many AFC Championship games has he won? How many? Obviously, he's won 7. How many playoff games and big weather games and games in general that kids won? And man, he's 39 or whatever, 38, has won. So you can't give a guy like that the football at the end of the game. You just can't give him chances because it's like giving Joe Montana or Dan Marino in his prime or Steve Young or we know John Elway. We watched them in history. We watched these guys. You cannot give them. Oh no! Here comes this motherfucker in the fourth quarter with a minute and 42 left. You're done. You're going to lose because he's so goddamn better than you. He's just a better player and he's more focused. And when Tim Tebow would play terrible through 3 quarters in the NFL. And then in the fourth quarter, his heightened sense of awareness, his focus would somehow transcend the game in the fourth quarter in clutch moments. And Tom Brady, that's what happened, and that's what he does. That's who he is. And usually he's good early and then good late. He's always good. But kudos to win 5 Super Bowls, to go to 7 Super Bowls and win 5 of them for any quarter. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Congratulations to the Patriots, good for them. But make no mistake, folks, the Atlanta Falcons absolutely lost this game. This was one of those games that you could look back. Anybody who's honest that watches football will say to you, the New England Patriots did not take this from Atlanta. Atlanta literally Atlanta would have been better off in the fourth quarter just kneeling down. When they got that ball to Julio Jones, if he'd have taken 2 knees and they'd have kicked a field goal, and even if they don't make the field goal, they still go down over a minute and a half. So they still wear the clock back down. But they couldn't get their shit together. And then a holding penalty on a pass holding. I mean, it was just too much for the Falcons. And their coaches didn't help them. Dan Quinn, he won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks, but they couldn't help him. Their coaches just didn't help them. Whereas the coaches on New England did exactly the opposite. All they did was help their team. All they did was put them into good situations. All they did was make good decisions. The Falcons didn't, and that was the difference. So, kudos to Belichick and all these and the evil empire. But make no mistake, Atlanta lost this game. Thanks for listening. Oh, and by the way, these were the 2 teams, Atlanta and New England, for conspiracy theorists out there, who are the teams who get paid the most from the NFL to do patriotic displays at halftime. So, all those flag ceremonies, all the fake reunions between veterans and blah blah blah. These are the teams that get the most money for doing that. These 2 teams. So that's a fun fact. That's an interesting fact for you. Thank you for listening.